the boy who brought down a judge. For 24 years, Judge Victoria Hardwell ruled the Jefferson County Courthouse in Birmingham, Alabama, with absolute, unquestioned power. She didn't need to raise her voice. A single glance over her half-rimmed glasses was enough to silence even the most seasoned attorneys. Her presence was like a chill that seeped into the walls, permanent, oppressive, and inescapable. Inside the tall, aging courthouse, it wasn't the southern heat that made people sweat. It was the decades of injustice that clung to every brick. Locals, especially in the black community, knew the truth even if they never said it out loud. Judge Hardwell's courtroom was a place where fairness went to die. On that late August afternoon, the sun filtered through dusty high windows, casting long shafts of light across the oak-paneled walls. Tyrone Jackson sat at the defense table, a 22-year-old black man falsely accused of armed robbery. His hands trembled. His young attorney fidgeted nervously. The trial had barely begun, but everyone knew how it would end. It always ended the same. Then something unexpected happened. The doors at the back of the courtroom opened, and in walked a young black boy. He was only 14, dressed in a clean white shirt and neatly pressed khakis. He didn't say a word. He simply walked in with quiet confidence and took a seat directly behind the defense. The boy's name was Micah Brooks. He didn't come here by accident. He came for war. Hardwell noticed him almost immediately. Her eyes, like steel blades, flickered briefly, just long enough to register something strange. Something off. She didn't like surprises in her courtroom. But Micah wasn't intimidated. He sat perfectly still, eyes calm but alert, silently studying everything. Micah had grown up in a different kind of courtroom, watching his father, Justice Clarence Brooks, a respected Supreme Court judge, speak passionately about law, fairness, and the responsibility of those who wield power. But this was the first time Micah had seen what injustice really looked like up close. And it made his blood boil. He watched as Prosecutor Dean Whitmore, young, white, wealthy, rose to deliver his opening statement. His confidence oozed as he presented vague testimonies and flimsy evidence. Hardwell nodded along approvingly, like a director watching her favorite actor hit every cue. Micah clenched his fists. But he remembered what his father had always told him. Justice is not about how loud you are. It's about how long you're willing to stand in silence until the truth is ready to speak. He calmed himself, slipped a small phone from his pocket, and began to record. Quietly, steadily. Every biased question, every unjust interruption, every eye roll, and every moment when the defense was cut off before a sentence was finished, Micah captured them all. It wasn't the impulsive act of a reckless child. It was the beginning of a calculated strike. As the trial went on, it became clearer by the minute that Hardwell wasn't presiding, she was dictating. The defense attorney, Jamal Green, could barely get a word in before being silenced. When he tried to present alibi evidence showing Tyrone was at a family gathering miles away at the time of the robbery, Hardwell dismissed it with a wave. "This isn't a storytelling contest," she snapped. Tyrone lowered his head in despair. Micah recorded. Again and again. Then came the witness testimony, the store manager who claimed he'd seen Tyrone. But under oath, he hesitated. I'm not entirely sure. The man had a ski mask. Hardwell leaned in sharply. "Then explain to me why you identified the defendant in your police statement." The witness stammered. I thought it was him. "I guess." "You guess?" "You thought," she growled. "I mean, yes. Yes, I'm sure." Micah's heart pounded. He had it. He had everything. But then his phone slipped. A soft thud echoed through the courtroom like a gunshot. Everyone turned. Hardwell's eyes locked onto Micah. "Young man," she hissed. "Are you recording in my courtroom?" Micah stood. And for the first time, someone looked Judge Victoria Hardwell directly in the eye and didn't flinch. "I'm recording the truth," he said clearly. "If you've done nothing wrong, what are you so afraid of?" Gasps rippled through the room. Security rushed forward. Hardwell shouted, "Confiscate that phone. Remove him immediately." But Micah stood firm. "You can throw me out," he said as they grabbed his arm, "but you can't throw out the truth." They dragged him toward the door, but he turned back. "You're not afraid of me," he called out. "You're afraid of what people will see when they realize you've been rigging trials for years." Hardwell froze. The courtroom froze. No one had ever dared. Outside the doors, as the security guards tried to push him further, Micah stopped. "Wait." His voice sliced through the silence. He turned around, walked right back into the courtroom. "Judge Hardwell," he said, now standing in the center of the room. "You're not angry because I disrespected your courtroom. You're angry because I exposed what it's become." Hardwell barked at him to leave, her voice shaking now not with anger, but fear. "You're afraid," Micah continued. "Afraid that someone finally had the courage to say what everyone else is too scared to say, that your courtroom is a stage, your trials are theater, and your justice only serves the privileged." Murmurs swirled around the courtroom. Then the doors burst open again. 2 federal agents entered. They flashed their badges. "Apologies for the interruption," the taller one said. "But Judge Victoria Hardwell, you are under investigation for obstruction of justice, racial bias, and abuse of power." Hardwell's face went pale. "This is absurd," she barked. "I am the law." "No," the female agent replied, stepping forward. "You were a judge. Now you're a suspect." They handed over a warrant. The courtroom erupted into chaos. Hardwell screamed. She tried to run. She tried to fight. But the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, silencing the reign of a woman who had silenced so many. All eyes turned to Micah. It was him. He had done this. He had recorded every moment. He had stood when no one else dared. And then came the announcement. The evidence was provided by Micah Brooks, the female agent declared, son of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Brooks. A wave of shock swept through the room. But Micah stepped forward. "I didn't do this because of who my father is," he said. "I did it because it was the right thing to do. Justice doesn't depend on power, it depends on courage." The jury stood and applauded. Even the court officers, once silent, now nodded in respect. Minutes later, a new judge entered the room, Judge Harold Jefferson, a respected black jurist known for his integrity. He took his seat, looked over the case, and without hesitation declared, "All charges against Tyrone Jackson are hereby dismissed. This trial never should have happened." Tyrone wept. He rushed to Micah, threw his arms around him. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for believing in me." Micah smiled. "You don't need to thank me," he said. "You just needed someone to listen." Outside the courtroom, his father stood waiting. Justice Clarence Brooks hugged his son tightly. "I'm proud of you, Micah," he said. Micah looked up. "I want to keep fighting, Dad. For people like Tyrone. For people who don't have a voice." Justice Brooks nodded. "Then let this be your beginning." As the courthouse emptied and the sunset cast long golden rays across the marble floors, people walked away changed. The day power fell. The day truth stood tall. The day a 14-year-old boy taught a courtroom what justice really meant. And somewhere deep in the heart of Birmingham, a new belief was born, that justice, when spoken boldly, can shake even the oldest pillars of power. And from that day forward, Micah Brooks walked with one truth engraved in his soul. That even one voice, if it dares, can change everything.